creating a practice. And it depends on how good, how well we want to play this practice as to what we experience. So today I'm talking about a practice. We're going to talk about truth both as a timely experience and as a timeless experience. Because prosperity comes from inside out. Inside out. Now, in this day, we often think, when we say prosperity, we think of money, we think of dollar signs, we think of gold, we think of riches, we think of cars, we think of, yes? Is that what we think of when we think of prosperity? Y'all don't want to say that? I believe that most of us think that. So we jump to this conclusion, and in spiritual terms, prosperity is something much deeper, much wider, much more radiant. Prosperity. It is the aliveness of the soul, the freedom of the spirit, the joy of knowing that we are one with the source of infinite supply. We're one with the source of infinite supply. Can you even wrap your head around that? When I think of that, I keep going, infinite supply. That means endless. It means more than I can imagine. It just keeps on giving. Eric Butterworth, who is a Unity minister and quite a teacher of spiritual economics, says this: you do not have to get to prosperity. You simply have to release it. You do not have to make your life prosperous. You just simply have to let it. Doesn't that sound nice? All we have to do is let it. We don't have to go out and do something. Now, I believe that we have to practice it. And I believe that we have to practice it because so often we've been taught something else. I can remember hearing a lot as a child, there's not enough. We can't do that. We don't have the money to do that. And, that was true at the time. But that was because we didn't have that vision of infinite possibility. We didn't have the vision of being grateful for what we had. And we had a lot. I look back at my childhood and I think, wow, we were rich. We were rich. So we don't have to get prosperous. We just have to allow ourselves to be it. Again, it's not something out there. It's not something that we chase. It is something that's already within us. It is within us, and it is waiting to be expressed. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, defined prosperity in a way that shifts our whole perspective. He says, it's not the things themselves. It is the consciousness of abundance, the awareness that we live in a universe that is overflowing with possibility. We live in a universe that's overflowing with possibility. Catherine Ponder, a Unity icon, I would say, and she was very into prosperity. She says, whatever you praise increases. The whole universe responds to praise with new abundance. That's that sense of giving, and it returns as we give. It returns. So if we praise with real gratitude, with the feeling of gratitude, then we begin to receive. We begin to experience the magnetism of prosperity. So I brought a little object lesson. And somewhere in here, there's some magnets. Little bitty things, little magnets. And yet, they are determined to hold these clips. We're like magnets. As we allow ourselves to be grateful, we can't help but attract. we can't help but attract. It's kind of even hard to let go, because we become great attractors of good, of life, of abundance. During the pandemic, there was a woman in a small town, and she began sewing masks. You know how we were all attached to our masks back at that time? And she did it from leftover scraps. And she just gave them away to people. And as she did that, people began coming to her home with fabric, with needles, with elastic, with all of the things that she needed to make more masks. And she continued this, making mask after mask, giving them away, sending them out. She ended up sending masks throughout the world because people would hear about it and they would say, yes, I want a mask. So it is just a small act that can multiply so greatly. The flow of love, the flow of supply. She didn't get abundance. She released abundance. She lived abundance. And it came back multiplied. This is how prosperity works. It begins as an inner impulse to give, to share, to serve. And when we act upon that impulse, it opens doors that we could never have forced open on our own. And I'm sure right now I could ask y'all to share prosperity stories, and you would each and every one have one. Those times that you allowed yourself to open to the possibility. So I was going through a divorce one time. Only one time, though. And my husband and I got into this thing about not having enough. He said, I want a new cowboy hat. I don't have the money. I said, I want whatever. I don't have the money. And we kept going back and forth like this, both of us being true students. And finally, one day I went, what are we doing? What are we doing? So we both, at that moment, decided that we would affirm that we not only had enough, we had more than enough. And suddenly, all of the blockage that we put into the way of the expression of good was just gone. I mean, it's just gone. And suddenly we could work together. We were no longer arguing. We just received the good as we released the blocks to that good. So, truth and prosperity is not just a historic event that we've been taught. Michael Beckwith of the Agape Church says, abundance is our birthright. It's not something we acquire, it's something we tune into. When you think of radio stations, there's a whole slew of radio stations we can listen to. We can turn into that one of lack, or we can turn back over here to the one of truth and prosperity and giving and flow. What do you want to tune into? Where do you want your thinking to be? Marianne Williamson says that nothing liberates our greatness like the desire to help. The desire to help and serve. Thich Nhat Hanh says, because you are alive, everything is possible. So I suggest that each of you have something that you can give. Some way that you can be grateful to the universe and say, universe, I'd like to give this back to you. Universe, I want to participate in the flow of life. I want to let go and release any fear that I have. Fear, and what that means, it's easing God out. We can get all attached to false evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. False evidence appearing real. And in truth, we have all that we need. So, do you hear the common thread that goes through all of these quotes? Abundance is not a possession. It's a vibration. It's a consciousness. It's a way of being. It's a way of being. I was thinking about what I could say or do to indicate the practice of prosperity. And I was remembering one time I decided I wanted to change something in my life. And so I moved a trash can as a reminder. And I invite you to do this in your life. Move a trash can. And every time you go to that old place to drop the trash, remember, call yourself back to the prospering flow of the universe. That prospering flow. And so there are some practical steps. We can practice this in our life, day by day, moment by moment. We can shift our attitude from lack to gratitude. I know that if I ask you, there would be something that you would say, you lack in your life. And I'm suggesting that you take that awareness and begin to give thanks. To give thanks for what you do have. To look for the awe. Look for the awe in life. So in 2 Kings 4, 1 through 7, there is the widow. Her husband has died. Her sons have been taken because she doesn't have what she needs to pay her taxes. We all understand that when it comes tax time. Oh my gosh. So she says, oh, woe is me. I don't have the money to pay these taxes. And the prophet said, wait, what do you have in your house right now? And she said, well, I have only one pot of oil. Only one pot of oil. And he goes, well, I tell you what. Go to your neighbors and ask if you can borrow some pots. And borrow as many pots as you can. And then come back. And she did. And he said, okay, now pour the oil from your pot into the pots that you have here. So she went about pouring the pots, pouring oil into the pots. And guess what happened? She had enough oil to go into every pot that she had gathered. This is to say she had the consciousness to fill what she had. When we can raise our consciousness, we gather our pots around to the possibility, then we can begin to see the abundance that is. Myrtle Fillmore, I just love this story. Myrtle Fillmore, she was one of our co-founders and an incredible woman. So one day one of the workers came to her and said, oh, Myrtle, we only have 3 cents. We need to put a letter out calling for money. And she went, oh, no, we need to stop and give thanks for our 3 cents. We need to look at what we have and give thanks for our 3 cents. I think that's such a powerful statement. We don't have to look at what we don't have. Let's look at what we have. Let's see what we can do to practice praising, to practice blessing, to practice blessing your home, blessing your job, blessing your relationship, blessing your body. Your word sets spiritual law in motion. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for my home. Thank you, God, for my health. I have to practice this a lot. You know, I think about what's not. And then I have to go, oh no, let's look at what is. What is? So we have to practice. As Catherine Ponder says, praise and it increases. Praise and it increases. Align with service. Look for a place that you can become in the flow and aware of being in the flow. You're always in flow. We're not always aware of it. Sometimes we kind of hide behind a rock or something or behind a dam and go, nope, there's no flow. Yep, there's flow. All we have to do is get out of the way and open ourselves to the flow, to align with service, to align with possibility to be willing to receive. I counseled with a couple for some time, and she was always worried about the finances of their business, and he never seemed to be concerned about it. So one day she finally says, what's going to happen if this happens and we go bankrupt? And he goes, no big deal. I'll just start over and make another $1 million. It was the third time that he would have done this. He had done it twice. He'd gotten a divorce and gave all of his money to his ex-wife. Just gave it all away. And then he started over. He never doubted for a moment that he was in the flood. And this is not about magical thinking and creating money just out of nothing. It's not about magical thinking. It's about transformation. It's about transforming our consciousness. It's about transforming our consciousness from that place where we believe not to a place where we believe. Prosperity is not something that we chase. It is something we awaken to. It's from inside out. It's from a place of knowing. And so I invite you to affirm with me. I live in an abundant universe. I live in an abundant universe. Prosperity flows through me from inside out. Prosperity flows through me from inside out. I awaken daily to my spiritual riches. I awake daily to my spiritual riches. And so let us go forth and live abundantly, graciously, in joy, in love, in light. Namaste.